One night to forget her pain, she gave her first time to a billionaire, and he owned her forever. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Have you ever wondered how a single night could change your life forever? Let's find out together. It was just another ordinary evening, or so it seemed. The city lights flickered in the distance as Megan walked down the cold streets of New York. She clutched her purse tightly, every step echoing against the pavement, the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was used to walking this path, alone, exhausted, and with little hope in her heart. Her life had been a constant struggle, with days blending into each other, a never-ending cycle of bills to pay and dreams deferred. She worked long hours as a waitress, barely making enough to cover rent, let alone anything else. But tonight, it felt different. Tonight, she was supposed to meet someone who had promised her a chance at something more. Her phone buzzed, the message from her best friend, Jenny, reminding her of the blind date that was supposed to be her escape from this grind. Just go, Megan. You deserve it, Jenny had said. Megan wasn't so sure. After all, she wasn't exactly the type of girl who belonged in a fancy restaurant, wearing a second-hand dress that had been patched up too many times to count. But she couldn't back out now. She had promised Jenny she'd give it a shot. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open to the upscale restaurant, the warm glow inside contrasting sharply with the cold night outside. Megan's eyes scanned the room nervously. She felt out of place, like a fish out of water in a world of luxury she had only ever dreamed of. Table 7, she murmured to herself, glancing down at the note on her phone. Her heart raced as she spotted a man sitting alone at a corner table. He was dressed sharply, his dark hair neatly combed, looking every bit the part of a successful man. He seemed engrossed in his phone, unaware of her approach. She took a deep breath and walked toward him, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said, forcing a smile, her voice betraying the nervousness she tried to hide. The man looked up, a moment of confusion flashing across his face. Hi Megan," he said slowly, his gaze lingering on her as if trying to figure her out. Megan laughed nervously, feeling her cheeks flush. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right?" she added, her words tumbling out. "Jenny told me you might be a little shy, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man, still looking slightly bewildered, gave a small smile, shrugging his shoulders. "Right, blind dates are something else," he said, his voice low and smooth, almost as if he wasn't really paying attention to her words, but more to the way she spoke. Megan didn't mind. In fact, she found his reserved nature a bit of a relief. She was nervous, but at least he seemed equally uncomfortable, which made it feel a little more normal. "I'm sorry," Megan continued, "I should have introduced myself properly. I'm Megan, a waitress, not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills." She tried to make light of the situation, but she could feel her words sounding more self-conscious than she intended. The man looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a second, she felt a shift. It was subtle, but it was there, an acknowledgement, a connection. "I work in tech," he said, a little hesitantly, as if unsure how to explain his job. "It's not as exciting as it sounds," he added quickly, as if to avoid sounding too boastful. "Tech?" Megan asked, her curiosity piqued. "Like coding and apps and stuff?" "I'm terrible with computers," she admitted with a small chuckle. He smiled then, a real smile, and for a brief moment, the awkwardness melted away. "Something like that," he said, leaning back in his chair. "But you're not what I expected," he added, his tone softening. Megan blinked, unsure of what he meant. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice small. He hesitated, looking down at his drink. "Jenny said." "You were shy," he said, his voice just above a whisper. But you're easy to talk to. His words caught her off guard, and for a moment, she wasn't sure how to respond. Before she could say anything, her phone buzzed again. She glanced down and saw a message from Jenny. "Hey, I'm at table 7. Megan's heart sank as she reread the message. She looked up at the man sitting across from her, her face going bright red. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, barely able to speak. His smile faltered, and he shook his head, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and amusement. "No, I'm not," he said softly. "I'm Liam." "But, hey, it's okay. It's not a big deal." Megan, mortified, stood up quickly. "I'm so sorry," she muttered, grabbing her coat and heading for the door without another word. The embarrassment washed over her, and before she knew it, she was outside, her breath coming in short gasps as she tried to calm down. She couldn't believe she had just made such a fool of herself. But as she stepped onto the cold sidewalk, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, something that went beyond the awkwardness of the situation. Something in her chest fluttered, an unfamiliar feeling she couldn't quite place. Was it hope? Or something else? It had been a few days since Megan's embarrassing mix-up at the restaurant, but the image of Liam, the man she thought was Kevin, wouldn't leave her mind. She had tried to shake it off, telling herself it was just another awkward encounter, one of those things that happened when you least expected. But there was something about him, something different. It wasn't just his looks, although he had the kind of presence that made you want to take a second look. It was the way he looked at her, like she wasn't just another face in the crowd. It was the way he smiled, almost as if he understood the weight she carried without needing her to say a word. That afternoon, as Megan stood at the counter of her small apartment, staring at the pile of bills she had to pay, her phone buzzed again. She picked it up without much hope, expecting it to be another reminder from Jenny about something mundane. But this time, it was a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Liam. I know we had a rough start, but I'd really like to see you again. Maybe coffee." Megan blinked at the screen, her heart skipping a beat. She had been expecting a message from Jenny, not from him. Her fingers hovered over the keys as she debated whether or not to respond. What would she even say? "Sorry for running out on you the other night. I didn't mean to make a fool of myself." She sighed, her fingers typing out a reply before she could think better of it. "Sure, coffee sounds nice. When?" A few minutes later, Liam's response came through. "How about tomorrow afternoon? There's a small cafe I know. It's not fancy, but it's quiet." Megan smiled to herself. He wasn't asking her to meet at some trendy spot or a high-end restaurant. He was asking for something simple. It made her feel a little less out of place, like maybe this wasn't about appearances at all. The next day, Megan arrived at the cafe, her nerves on edge. She had dressed casually, trying to blend in, but as she stepped inside, she felt like all eyes were on her. The cafe was quiet, with soft music playing in the background and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. She scanned the room, looking for Liam, and spotted him sitting at a table near the back. His dark hair was a little tousled, and he was dressed more casually than the night they met. When he saw her, his face lit up, and he stood up to greet her. "Megan, it's good to see you," he said, his voice warm. She felt her heart race, a mix of excitement and anxiety bubbling up inside her. She wasn't used to this, being greeted like this, by someone who seemed genuinely happy to see her. "It's good to see you too," she said, forcing a smile as she sat down across from him. They started talking, and this time, it was easier. There was no pressure, no awkward tension. They talked about their jobs, their lives, and even their favorite movies. Megan found herself laughing more than she had in weeks, enjoying the simplicity of just being in the moment. As the conversation flowed, Liam listened intently, asking her questions about her dreams and what she wanted out of life. It was the first time in a long time that Megan felt like someone really cared to listen. "I'm thinking of opening my own art studio," she admitted shyly. "It's a dream of mine, but I don't know if it's possible. I mean, who would come to a place like that, right?" Liam leaned forward, his gaze never leaving hers. "I think it's a great idea," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "You should go for it, Megan. I can see how passionate you are about it." Megan blinked, surprised by his support. She wasn't used to hearing encouragement like that. "Really?" she asked, a little unsure. "Absolutely," he said with a smile. "You've got a talent, and the world needs more people who follow their passion." For the first time in a long while, Megan felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't as lost as she thought. Maybe there was a way to make her dreams come true. As they finished their coffee, Liam stood up and smiled at her. "I'm glad we met, Megan. And I meant what I said, I think you should pursue your art. I'll help however I can." Megan felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She wasn't sure what exactly he meant by helping, but just hearing him say it meant more than she could put into words. "I'll keep that in mind," she said, her voice soft but sincere. As she left the cafe, Megan felt different. The weight on her shoulders didn't feel as heavy, and for the first time in a long time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, her dreams could become a reality. But there was still a part of her that held back, unsure of where this would lead. She didn't know Liam's story, his life, or his real intentions. But something about him made her want to trust him. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would change her life in ways she never imagined. It had been a week since Megan met Liam at the cafe, and even though she tried to move on with her life, his words kept echoing in her mind. He had been so kind, so encouraging, and that was something Megan wasn't used to. The quiet support he offered felt like a lifeline she didn't know she needed, but it also left her confused. She couldn't quite understand why a man like him, a successful tech millionaire, would care so much about her, or a waitress with a dream that seemed out of reach. Megan had tried to focus on her work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. She couldn't deny that she was intrigued by Liam, but she also couldn't shake the feeling that she was in over her head. What if he was just being nice? What if he didn't really mean the things he said? There were so many questions, and she didn't have the answers. One day, as she was getting ready to leave work, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Hey Megan, I hope you're doing well. I was wondering if you'd like to meet up again sometime soon. I'd love to talk more about your art and how I can help." Her heart skipped a beat as she read the message. She had been wondering when or if he would reach out again, but part of her had resigned herself to the idea that maybe their meeting was just a one-time thing. She quickly typed out a response. "Hi Liam, I'd love to. I've been thinking about our conversation too." They agreed to meet the next day, and when Megan arrived at the small art gallery Liam had suggested, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was a place she had dreamed of visiting, a space filled with creativity and inspiration. The walls were lined with beautiful paintings, each one telling its own unique story. Liam was already there, standing by one of the paintings, his eyes fixed on it as if lost in thought. He turned as she approached, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Megan, I'm so glad you could make it," he said, his voice carrying an undeniable sincerity. "This place is amazing," Megan said, her voice filled with awe. "I've always wanted to be in a space like this." Liam's smile grew. "I thought you might like it. Art has a way of making you feel things you didn't know you were feeling." They spent the next few hours walking through the gallery, talking about everything from the artist's techniques to the emotions each piece evoked. As they talked, Megan began to feel more and more comfortable around him. There was something about Liam that made her feel like she could trust him, like he genuinely cared about her dreams. After the tour, they sat down in a cozy corner of the gallery, and Liam looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "Megan, I've been thinking about what you said, about wanting to open your own art studio. I think you can do it," he said, his eyes searching hers. Megan blinked, surprised by how serious he sounded. "You really think so?" she asked, her voice filled with doubt. "I know so," Liam replied, his voice firm but kind. "You have a passion for art, and that's something that can't be taught. You've got the drive to make it happen. I want to help you." Megan's chest tightened, her emotions rising. She wasn't used to people offering help without expecting something in return. She had always believed that if she wanted something, she had to work for it on her own. But there was something in Liam's eyes that made her believe he wasn't just talking about empty promises. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice soft. "I've always dreamed of opening my own studio, but it feels so far away." Liam reached across the table, his hand resting gently on hers. "Don't worry about the how right now," he said. "We'll figure that out together. The important thing is that you believe in yourself." Megan felt a lump form in her throat. She didn't know why, but hearing him say that made her feel like she wasn't alone anymore. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone believed in her, and that belief meant more to her than anything else. As they stood to leave, Liam smiled at her once more. "I'm serious, Megan. Whatever you need, I'll be here to help." Megan nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. She wasn't sure where this path would lead, but for the first time, she felt like she had a real chance at making her dreams come true. The road ahead was still uncertain, but with Liam's support, maybe it wasn't as impossible as she once thought. As she walked out of the gallery, the weight on her shoulders didn't feel quite as heavy. Maybe, just maybe, things were starting to change. And as Megan looked up at the night sky, she realized that sometimes, the right people come into your life when you least expect it, and in ways you never imagined. It had been a month since Megan's meeting with Liam at the gallery, and the distance between them had only grown. Megan had been working hard, trying to make ends meet while juggling the thought of opening her own art studio. But every time she tried to focus on her dream, her mind would wander back to Liam, his encouraging words, the way he made her feel like she could do anything. Yet, there was a lingering doubt in her mind. Was this all too good to be true? Could someone like him really want to help someone like her? She hadn't seen Liam since their last meeting, and though part of her missed him, another part of her felt conflicted. She was afraid that if she let herself get too close, she'd end up getting hurt. She had spent so many years keeping her guard up, not letting anyone in, and now, after just a few meetings with Liam, she felt like she was about to throw it all away. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that she couldn't keep running from the possibility of something real. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a text from Liam. "Hey, Megan, I hope you're doing well. I know things have been busy, but I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I haven't heard from you in a while." Megan stared at the message for a moment, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She had been avoiding him, not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of getting too close, fear of being vulnerable. But now, seeing his message, she realized she couldn't keep pretending that nothing was happening between them. She took a deep breath and typed back, "Hey, Liam. I'm sorry I've been so distant. Things have been a bit hectic, but I've been thinking about our conversation a lot. I think I'm ready to take the next step with the studio." A few moments later, Liam's response came through. "That's great to hear. Let's meet up tomorrow. I want to hear all about it and see how I can help." Megan felt a flutter in her chest. There it was again, his support, his belief in her. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to do this alone. She knew that if she took the next step, it would be a leap of faith, but with Liam's help, maybe it wouldn't be so daunting. The next day, they met at a cafe, one that was quieter and more intimate than the ones they'd visited before. Megan arrived early, her heart racing with anticipation. She had spent the morning preparing for this meeting, writing down her ideas for the studio and the steps she would need to take to make it a reality. As she sat down at the table, Liam appeared, his usual calm and confident demeanor softened by the warmth of his smile. "Megan, it's good to see you," he said, his voice warm and genuine. "It's good to see you too," she replied, trying to mask the nervousness in her voice. They spent the next hour talking about her dreams, her plans for the studio, and the challenges she would face. Liam listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering advice when needed. He didn't just offer empty encouragement, he gave her concrete steps to take, things that would actually help her get started. Megan, I'm impressed by how much you've thought this through, Liam said, his eyes locking with hers. You're ready for this. And I want to help you get there. Megan felt her heart swell with gratitude. She had been so unsure of herself, but hearing him say that, she felt a surge of confidence she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, it seemed like her dream could actually come true. As the meeting came to a close, Liam leaned back in his chair, his gaze softening. Megan, I know this isn't just about the studio. There's more to you than this dream, and I want to be part of your journey. I think we have a real connection here, and I want to explore that. I know I haven't been the best at making my intentions clear, but I want to be honest with you. Megan's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this, but as the words left his mouth, she realized that she had been feeling the same way. There was something about Liam that made her feel seen, understood in a way she had never felt before. I'm open to that, she said softly, her voice filled with uncertainty but also hope. Liam smiled, the tension between them dissipating. Good. I think this could be the beginning of something special, Megan. As she left the cafe that day, Megan couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. She was stepping into the unknown, but with Liam by her side, it didn't seem so scary. She wasn't sure where this journey would take her, but for the first time, she was ready to take a chance, on her dream, and on him. It had been 2 weeks since Megan had decided to take the leap with Liam, and every day since had been filled with both excitement and anxiety. She had started to put together her plans for the art studio, mapping out her ideas, budgeting, and seeking advice from Liam, who had been nothing but supportive. But with every step forward, there was also a part of her that pulled back, afraid that this dream, too, would slip through her fingers, just like the others before it. Liam had been a constant presence in her life, showing up with encouragement and practical help, whether it was helping her with business advice or even offering to help with some of the initial funding. He had been generous in ways Megan had never experienced before, and though she felt deeply grateful, there was also an unsettling feeling growing inside her. Was she becoming too dependent on him? Was it possible that all of his kindness came with strings attached? As these thoughts began to swirl in her mind, Megan found herself more distracted than usual. She sat in her small apartment, sketching ideas for the studio, but the weight of her thoughts kept pulling her away from the page. It was late, and she could hear the quiet hum of the city outside her window, the sound of life moving on while she sat stuck in her head. Then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed, breaking her from her thoughts. It was a message from Liam. Hey, Megan. How's everything going? Would you like to grab dinner tomorrow night? I've been thinking about what you said, and I want to help you make this studio a reality. She stared at the message for a moment, her heart both warmed and uneasy. He had always been there, offering his help, but a part of her hesitated to ask for more. She had already accepted so much, and the last thing she wanted was for him to feel burdened by her needs. But at the same time, she couldn't deny the growing bond between them. She wanted to see where this could go, both with her dream and with him. I'd love that, she typed back quickly, her fingers shaking slightly. Let's meet tomorrow. The next evening, they met at a cozy Italian restaurant. The dim lighting and quiet atmosphere provided a calm contrast to the bustling city outside. Liam was already there when Megan arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking more relaxed than he had in their previous meetings. He smiled warmly as she walked in, standing to greet her. Megan, it's good to see you, he said, his voice as comforting as ever. You too, she replied, settling into the seat across from him. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, but I think I'm starting to get things together. Liam's eyes softened, and he nodded. I can tell. You've made a lot of progress. I'm proud of you, Megan. She smiled, feeling a rush of warmth. The way he spoke to her made her feel like she was actually capable of achieving everything she dreamed of. But still, the nagging doubts lingered. She couldn't shake the fear that somehow, this connection between them might not be as simple as it seemed. As they ordered dinner, their conversation shifted from business to more personal matters. Megan found herself opening up to Liam in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. She told him about her childhood, the struggles she had faced growing up, and how art had always been her escape. Liam listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers, his full attention on her words. "I've always wanted to help people express themselves through art," Megan said softly. "But I never thought I'd be able to do it on my own. Now, it feels like everything is falling into place, but I'm also scared. What if I fail?" Liam reached across the table, his hand covering hers gently. "You won't fail," he said, his voice firm yet comforting. "You've already come so far. And I'll be here to help you every step of the way." Megan looked down at their hands, the simple touch sending a wave of reassurance through her. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe in what Liam was saying. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she had always thought. But as the night went on, the reality of her situation began to settle back in. She appreciated Liam's help, but the more time they spent together, the more she wondered about his true intentions. Was he really just being kind, or was there something more? She couldn't help but feel a twinge of confusion. As the evening came to a close, Liam paid the bill, and they stood up to leave the restaurant. "I'm glad we talked tonight," he said, his voice a little softer now. "I know it's a lot, but I believe in you, Megan. I really do." Megan smiled, but a part of her felt distant, unsure. "Thank you, Liam. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied with a small smile. "Just know that I'm here for you, no matter what." As she left the restaurant, Megan couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between them, but she wasn't sure whether it was a good thing or not. Was she falling for Liam? Or was this just a feeling of gratitude mixing with something deeper? She didn't know yet, but as she walked down the street, she couldn't deny that her world was beginning to shift in ways she hadn't expected. And, for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she could let herself trust someone again. It had been a few days since Megan's dinner with Liam, and she found herself replaying the night over and over again in her mind. Every word, every gesture felt significant, but the weight of uncertainty still hung heavy in her heart. She wanted to believe Liam, to trust in his words, but a part of her hesitated. She had been hurt before, had trusted people only to find out they weren't who they claimed to be. What if Liam was the same? What if he was just another person who was kind because he had an agenda? Despite her doubts, Megan found herself texting him later that evening, the impulse to reach out stronger than her fear. "Hey, Liam. I've been thinking a lot about our conversation tonight. I'm excited about the studio, but I also have some questions. Would it be okay if we talk more about it soon?" The reply came quickly. "Of course, Megan. I'm here whenever you're ready. Just let me know when." The next day, Megan sat in her small apartment, surrounded by art supplies, sketches of her dream studio scattered across the table. She couldn't help but feel the weight of the decision ahead of her. Opening the studio wasn't just a dream, it was a commitment, and with that commitment came risk. Was she ready to take the leap? Could she really build something on her own, or was she simply chasing a fantasy? She decided to reach out to Liam again, this time asking for more than just advice. "I think I'm ready to start moving forward, but I'm not sure where to begin. Do you have time to meet tomorrow? I could use some help navigating the next steps." Once again, Liam responded almost instantly. "I'm glad to hear that, Megan. Let's meet tomorrow. I'll bring some documents that might help you get started." Megan's heart skipped a beat at the mention of documents. It wasn't just a casual conversation now, it was getting real, and she had no idea what to expect. The following afternoon, they met at a small cafe, the same one they had visited on their first meeting. The familiarity of the place gave Megan a sense of comfort, though her nerves were still on edge. She had come to appreciate these moments with Liam, but the fear of her own insecurities still loomed large. As she walked in, she spotted Liam sitting at the back table, his usual calm demeanor radiating a quiet confidence. He looked up as she approached, and his face softened. "Megan, I'm really glad you're moving forward with this," he said, his voice sincere. "Thanks, Liam. I'm still nervous, but I think this is the right step," Megan replied, taking a seat across from him. Liam nodded, sliding a folder across the table. I've been talking to some of my contacts, and I've put together a list of steps to help you get started. These are the things you'll need to think about: business licenses, potential locations, some of the legal stuff. I know it's a lot, but I wanted to give you a solid foundation. Megan opened the folder, her eye scanning the documents. There was so much to consider, so much she had never even thought about. She felt overwhelmed by the sheer amount of work involved, but at the same time, it was comforting to have a plan. To have someone like Liam who cared enough to help her figure this out. I don't even know where to begin, she admitted, glancing up at him with a mix of gratitude and fear. This is all a lot more complicated than I thought. Liam smiled reassuringly. That's normal. You don't have to do it all at once. You've already taken the first step by deciding to go for it. One thing at a time, Megan. You don't have to carry this burden alone. His words were like a balm to her anxiety, but there was still a nagging thought at the back of her mind. Was he only offering to help because he felt sorry for her? Was he trying to fix her life because he thought she couldn't do it on her own? Seeing the doubt in her eyes, Liam leaned forward slightly. Megan, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here because I believe in you. I believe in your talent, your dream. I want to see you succeed, not because I want something in return, but because you deserve it. Megan swallowed hard, the sincerity in his voice hitting her in a way she hadn't expected. I don't know what to say, she whispered, overwhelmed by the emotion that rose within her. You don't have to say anything, Liam said with a soft smile. Just know that I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I'll be there. As they sat there together, discussing the next steps for her studio, Megan felt something shift within her. The fear was still there, but it was now accompanied by something new: hope. Hope that this dream, this studio, could actually become a reality. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone in this as she thought. When they finished talking, Liam stood up, offering his hand. Let's make this happen, Megan. You're not in this alone anymore. Megan shook his hand, her heart filled with a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. It wasn't going to be easy, and she still didn't know where it would lead, but with Liam by her side, she felt ready to take the next step toward her future. It had been a month since Megan had taken the first step toward making her dream of opening an art studio a reality. The documents Liam had given her had been overwhelming at first, but little by little, she had begun to understand the process. She had applied for permits, looked at potential spaces, and started to gather a team to help her get the studio off the ground. Despite all the progress she had made, a part of her still felt uncertain. What if she couldn't make it work? What if the studio failed? She had seen so many dreams crumble before, and though Liam had been a constant source of support, she couldn't shake the fear that she was just setting herself up for another disappointment. One afternoon, Megan sat at her kitchen table, reviewing her budget once again, feeling the weight of the numbers. She knew it was going to be a tight squeeze, but she was determined to make it work. Just as she was about to pick up the phone to call her accountant, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. Hey, Megan. How's everything going? I've been thinking about you and the studio. Want to grab lunch tomorrow? Megan paused, staring at the message. It had been a while since they'd last met, and she found herself looking forward to seeing him. But there was also that nagging feeling that had been growing inside her. The more time they spent together, the more she realized that her feelings for him were changing. What had started as a professional relationship, him helping her with the studio, was beginning to feel like something more. She didn't know if it was just gratitude or something deeper, but every time they spoke, she felt a pull toward him that she couldn't ignore. She quickly typed a reply, trying to keep things casual. Sure, lunch sounds great. I'd love to catch up. The next day, they met at the same cafe where they had shared their first meeting. The moment Megan walked in, she saw Liam sitting at their usual spot, his smile warm as always. As she sat down across from him, she noticed a slight change in his demeanor, something about the way he looked at her that felt different. How's everything going with the studio? Liam asked, his voice calm but with an underlying sense of anticipation, like he was waiting for something. Megan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's going okay. I'm still figuring things out. There's a lot to do, and sometimes it feels like it's too much, you know. Liam nodded, his expression softening. I get it. But I've seen how hard you've been working, and I know you're going to make this happen. You've got the passion, Megan. That's what matters. Megan's heart fluttered at his words, but she quickly shook off the feeling. This wasn't supposed to be about her personal feelings for him. This was about her future and her dreams. They spent the next hour talking about the progress of the studio, and Liam offered more advice, helping her find ways to cut costs and stay on track. As the conversation shifted to more personal topics, Megan found herself becoming increasingly aware of the tension between them. She hadn't realized how much time they had spent together until she glanced at the clock and saw that it was nearly 2 p.m. It's getting late, Megan said, trying to hide the discomfort she felt. I should probably get going. Liam didn't seem to want the conversation to end. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze intense. Megan, I've been meaning to tell you something, he said softly. I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I feel like I need to be honest with you. Megan's stomach tightened, a mix of curiosity and apprehension flooding her. What is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, his expression serious. I know we've been working together on your studio, but I can't deny that I've started to care about you in a way that goes beyond business. I know it's complicated, and I don't want to make things awkward, but I feel like I can't ignore it any longer. Megan froze, her heart racing in her chest. She had known there was something between them, but hearing him say it out loud made everything feel so much more real. Her mind spun with a million thoughts, all of them conflicting. Could she let herself fall for him? Was it too soon? Was this just about gratitude, or was it something more? She opened her mouth to respond but found that no words came out. Instead, she looked at Liam, trying to process everything he had just said. Liam seemed to notice her hesitation and quickly added, I'm not asking for anything right now, Megan. I just needed you to know how I feel. I don't want to pressure you into anything. I just thought it was important to be honest. Megan took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside her. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't expect that. Liam smiled softly, a look of understanding on his face. You don't have to say anything, Megan. I just wanted you to know. They sat in silence for a moment, both lost in their thoughts, before Liam stood up. I'll let you get back to work. But whatever you decide, I'm here for you, okay? Megan nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. She wasn't sure what to make of everything that had just happened, but she knew one thing for sure: things between her and Liam were changing, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it yet. But as she watched him walk away, a part of her couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop holding back. The following week, Megan couldn't stop thinking about the conversation she had with Liam. His words, the vulnerability in his eyes, kept replaying in her mind. She had never expected this, never expected that something so simple, so genuine, could stir up so many emotions. She had spent so much of her life building walls, keeping everyone at a distance, and now, for the first time in a long time, she felt like someone truly saw her, understood her. But with that understanding came fear. She had never allowed herself to fall for someone, and the idea of opening up to Liam, of letting him in, felt like a risk she wasn't sure she was ready to take. Her mind was spinning as she sat at her kitchen table, reviewing the next steps for her studio. There was so much to do: permits to apply for, contractors to hire, marketing strategies to plan. But no matter how hard she tried to focus on her work, her thoughts kept drifting back to Liam. He had been so patient, so supportive, and yet Megan couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding him at arm's length. She had tried to push those thoughts away, telling herself that she needed to focus on the studio, on building the future she had always dreamed of. But then, the phone rang. It was a text message from Liam. "Hey, Megan. I hope you're doing well. I was thinking about you today and wanted to see if you were free to meet up this weekend. Maybe we can grab dinner and catch up." Megan stared at the message, her heart racing. She wanted to see him, wanted to figure out what this connection between them meant, but she also didn't want to make things complicated. She wasn't sure what she wanted anymore. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the keyboard as she considered her response. After a moment, she typed back, "Dinner sounds great. I'd like that." Liam's reply came almost immediately. "I'm looking forward to it. Let me know when and where, and I'll be there." She smiled to herself, feeling a flutter in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, she could stop second-guessing everything and let herself see where this went. The weekend arrived, and they met at a quiet restaurant with soft lighting and an intimate atmosphere. Megan was nervous, but she tried not to let it show. As she walked into the restaurant, she spotted Liam right away. He was sitting at a corner table, a slight smile on his face as he saw her approach. "Hey," Megan said, taking a seat across from him. "It's good to see you again." "You too," Liam replied, his voice calm and warm. He gestured to the menu. "What do you feel like eating?" "It's on me tonight." Megan smiled, but her nerves were still there. "I'm not picky," she said, glancing at the menu. "But I'm excited to hear more about the next steps for the studio. I've been working on a few ideas." They spent the first part of the evening talking about her studio, what she wanted it to look like, the kind of atmosphere she hoped to create, and how she could make it a place where people felt inspired and welcomed. Liam offered his thoughts and ideas, always listening intently, offering helpful suggestions that made Megan feel more confident. But as the evening went on, the conversation naturally shifted to something more personal. Liam looked at her with a tenderness that made Megan's heart skip a beat. "Megan," he began, his voice softer than before, "I know we've talked about the studio a lot, but I also wanted to talk about something else. I want you to know that I'm not just here to help with your business. I care about you more than I thought I would. I feel like there's something real between us, and I want to explore that." Megan froze, her mind racing. She hadn't expected him to say that, not in the way he just had. She had been so caught up in her fears about the studio and her own insecurities that she hadn't allowed herself to think about how she felt about Liam. But now, hearing him say those words, she realized how much she cared for him too. "I care about you too, Liam," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, his eyes lighting up with something that made Megan's heart race. "I'm glad to hear that," he said. "I know this might be complicated, but I want you to know that I'm here. I want to be with you, not just as a business partner, but as something more." Megan's chest tightened with emotion. She had spent so much of her life alone, keeping people at arm's length, but now, she felt like she was standing on the edge of something new. Something that scared her, but also excited her. "I don't know what this will look like," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "but I want to see where this goes. I want to take a chance on us." Liam's smile widened, and he reached across the table to take her hand. "We'll take it one step at a time, Megan. No pressure. Just us, figuring things out." For the first time in a long time, Megan felt a sense of peace settle over her. She wasn't sure what the future held, but with Liam by her side, she felt ready to face it. As they finished dinner, the world outside seemed a little brighter, a little more hopeful. Megan had finally let go of the doubts and fears that had held her back for so long, and in that moment, she knew that no matter what happened next, she had made the right choice. The weeks passed, and Megan's art studio slowly started to take shape. With Liam's continued support and guidance, she managed to secure a location, hire the right people, and begin the hard work of turning her dream into reality. She had never imagined that things could move this quickly, and yet, here she was, standing on the brink of something that could change her life forever. But it wasn't just the studio that was growing, her relationship with Liam was blossoming too. They spent more time together, not just discussing business, but enjoying each other's company. They went on dates, had long conversations, and slowly began to build something deeper, something real. One Saturday morning, Liam picked her up from her apartment for a surprise outing. Megan had no idea where they were going, but she trusted him and was excited to spend time with him. They drove through the city, passing familiar landmarks, until they arrived at a beautiful park that Megan had never seen before. The sun was shining brightly, and the air was crisp with the promise of spring. Liam led her down a winding path to a small gazebo by the water. As they stood there, overlooking the lake, Liam turned to Megan, a serious expression on his face. "Megan," he began, his voice filled with emotion. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've been through. I know we've only been together for a short time, but I feel like I've known you forever. You've changed my life in ways I can't even explain. And I want you to know that I'm here for you, not just in business, but in everything." Megan felt a lump form in her throat, her heart swelling with emotion. She had never expected to find someone like Liam, someone who understood her, supported her, and made her feel truly seen. She had spent so much time trying to protect herself from disappointment, but with him, she felt like she was finally able to let go and trust again. "I feel the same way, Liam," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "I never imagined I could feel this way about someone, but you've made me believe in love again." Liam smiled, his eyes softening as he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a beautiful ring. Megan's breath caught in her throat as she looked at it, her heart racing. "Megan," Liam said, his voice steady but full of meaning. "I know this is a big step, but I can't imagine my life without you in it. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Megan's eyes as she looked at him, the love and sincerity in his gaze making her heart swell. This was it, the moment she had always dreamed of, yet never thought she would get to experience. The moment she realized that love wasn't just about perfect timing or the right circumstances, it was about finding the person who made everything feel right, who made all the struggles worth it. "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam grinned, his eyes lighting up with happiness as he slipped the ring onto her finger. They embraced, standing there in the gazebo by the lake, the world around them fading away as they held each other close. In that moment, everything felt perfect. The following months were filled with excitement and anticipation as Megan and Liam began planning their wedding and continuing to grow their lives together. Megan's studio was thriving, and her dreams were no longer just dreams, they were becoming her reality. But beyond all the business success and milestones, it was the love they shared that made everything worthwhile. On their wedding day, as Megan walked down the aisle, she couldn't help but think about how far she had come. She had gone from being a struggling waitress with a dream to a woman standing at the start of an incredible new chapter in her life. And as Liam took her hand and they exchanged vows, she knew without a doubt that the future was bright. With him by her side, there was nothing they couldn't achieve together. They had built a life filled with love, trust, and shared dreams, a life that was truly theirs. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the crowd erupted in applause, and Megan felt a rush of happiness wash over her. This was the moment she had always hoped for, the moment when everything fell into place. And as they walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, Megan knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, because together, they were unstoppable.